Hey there, you just clicked on First Down Punts. Nice move. This is a podcast about football and how it relates to fantasy football. Hope you like what you hear. We're going to get this thing started. Let's get crazy. And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris, and today we're going to be going over some Week 10 trade targets, as well as the Thursday night preview, and a couple things in the NFL news, which we're going to jump into right away here. We know C.J. Stroud got a concussion in Week 9. He has been ruled out for Week 10. Today's Wednesday, so you already know that's good news. Maybe you want to pick up Davis Mills. Maybe you want to go grab somebody else, a Joe Flacco off the waiver, just to fill the spot this week. But wanted to get that out there so you guys know. James Cook missed Wednesday's practice. I say this all the time. I'm not too concerned with Wednesday practices for veterans. The more concerning thing is that it was noted that, hey, he got banged up in the Chiefs game a little bit, missed Wednesday's practice. Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, they become someone to be ready to grab off the waivers if James Cook misses practice Thursday. That's more what I'm paying attention to. So something to pay attention to when you're checking Thursday's practice reports. Is James Cook there? Checking social, just Google's James Cook, whatever you want to do. Find out if he practices Thursday. If not, Ray Davis to me would be the running back out of there, and then Ty Johnson would handle the pass catching and possibly the goal line. I don't know. But Ray Davis, I like Ray Davis. I think most people do that see him play. Ty Johnson, they just involve all the time because they trust him as a receiving option. And he's just a vet that's been around in that Bills organization for a while. But just wanted to note that. And then the big news, Kyler Murray has been placed on IR. I talked about it yesterday. He's been ruled out 4 to 8 weeks. So we know he's going to at least miss 4. I was wondering if this was a soft benching beforehand, that maybe he was healthy enough to play after they were talking about he could be active, but not the starter. They might have some packages for him. He ended up getting ruled out in a Monday night game, but now he's been placed on IR with the foot injury. And Jacoby Brissett is the starter for at least 4 weeks. Something to pay attention to. I wanted to go over some Week 9 things that I mentioned in the first couple videos this week. The biggest thing about Week 9 that stood out to me was all the missed kicks, blocked kicks, whether it was a punt or a field goal, and the amount of turnovers that happened in Week 9. It was very noticeable to me just watching the games, how many turnovers there were. I don't have the final number or comparative to other ones, but to me, the missed field goals, missed block punt, just stuff like that, special teams errors, and then the amount of turnovers, interceptions, fumble recoveries, everything, were even the fourth down stops were just – they were up this week, it felt like. So I just wanted to make note of that because hopefully we get a bounce back, not as many turnovers this week, some more made kicks if you have kickers in your fantasy leagues. Sam Darnold, perfect in the first half on Sunday night, 16 of 16 for 282 and 4 touchdowns in the first half. He was on fire. He's been playing great all season, a definite trade candidate, and they just traded for Rashid Shaheed, so that should only help that situation. Colston Loveland, his breakout game, 6 for 118 and 2 touchdowns, including I believe it was 58-yard game winner where he bounced off a couple Cincinnati tacklers who failed to wrap up. You know, one of the most important things about tackling is wrapping up. So Bears sneak out a win in what was it, 47, I think it was 47-42 or something like that was the final. And Colston Loveland blew up, man. Not to mention Cole Kmet left this game with a concussion. So Loveland should have another chance to have a big game this week. Rico Dowdle took control of the backfield. He was named the starter. Chuba Hubbard was not very involved, but he took control over his Packers. He ran for another 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, tacked on 2 catches for 11 yards, and is currently 9th among fantasy running backs in my home league. His 2 200-yard games, now a 130 and 2 touchdown game. He is shot up. He is right below Jahmyr Gibbs, if that says anything. He's definitely a guy that has been playing his ass off in his starts, and I expect that to continue even if Hubbard gets a little bit more involved going forward. So J.J. McCarthy in Week 9 had 3 touchdowns in his first start since week, 2, I think it was, he got injured. He had 3 touchdowns over the Lions. Not a ton of passing yards, but moving on the ground, moving through the air, got the offense moving more importantly. Looked way better than that game before with Carson Wentz. And against the Lions, who, yes, they're banged up, but they had Terry and Arnold back. They had Brian Branch back. Hutch is still there. They're doing fine on the defensive line as far as health-wise goes. Just the fact that he came out and played well, man. Like I said, I wasn't a big McCarthy guy coming out of college. mainly because I don't know how well he's going to do in the pros. But of course, he comes out and beats my Lions, and that's how it goes. So, big note for the Indianapolis Colts. They were obviously in the trade news yesterday, but they lost last week. Second loss of the season, had 6 turnovers. Daniel Jones kind of turned back into a pumpkin for that day. Now, it was against the Steelers defense that hadn't been playing great all season, but played their ass off this past week. Not enough Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren is what it is. Tyler Warren hasn't really been involved a lot the last 2 weeks. His stats are down. He had the lowest yardage total of his career so far last week. And I believe if they can get back to the formula that they were using before, where Jonathan Taylor was the offense and Tyler Warren was that secondary option, him and Pittman kind of fighting for the first receiver, I believe they will get back to their winning ways. They do have a tougher schedule down the stretch. I don't think they're going to be 7-1 over the next 8 games, but I don't think they're going to completely fall apart just because of one loss with 6 turnovers in it. And the big news, like I said, on Tuesday, traded for Sauce Gardner. So that's only going to help their chances of not falling apart. So good move by them. And obviously, Colts fans hope to see them bounce back and get a win this week. The Broncos moved to 7-2 with another ugly win, 18-15 over the Texans, who lost C.J. Stroud to injury, as well as a couple other guys. But Broncos continue to win. They're first in AFC West. They were my Super Bowl prediction coming out of AFC. So I like to see that they're still winning. They were trying to make some trades, it sounded like, but nothing really came through. They move on with the team they have and look to get another win this week. The Bills beat the Chiefs again in the regular season. Josh Allen is now, I believe, 5-1 against Pat Mahomes in the regular season, but can't beat him in the playoffs, obviously. That'll be when it really matters. But Bills still like winning the regular season, trying to get that number 1 seed. Chiefs in their 5-game win streak. Other than that, guys, let's get in these trade candidates. A couple quarterbacks for you, receivers, tight ends, and even a couple running backs, obviously. First guy on the list is Dak Prescott. Prescott is coming off 2 bad games and is currently on his bye week in Week 10. He is still 8th overall in fantasy points in the QB category. He's got 3 games over 25 rush yards, and his last two actual games have been over 30 rush yards. So that's only adding the fantasy stats. He plays Week 17. He gets to play Washington, and if you're crazy like my home league, Week 18, he plays the New York Giants. So a couple of good defenses at the end there to play. Definitely a guy, like I said, he's 8th overall among QBs right now. 2 bad games and a bye. People might be a little bit down on him. Maybe you can sneak in there and get him for somebody. Trade one of those guys that haven't been doing great, but have had a couple good games recently. Maybe a Flacco and something. Go get Dak, because Flacco's been the number 1 QB over the last 4 weeks. Jackson Dart is our next guy. We already talked about him in the staple bag video. He's got to get his passing yards up a little bit, which he did have a decent game this past week. But he's got in 6 games, he's got 10 pass touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns. He's had a rushing touchdown in every game but one. 15 total touchdowns, and he's had over 50 rushing yards in 4 of his 6 games. I don't know what you're looking for, but that's what I'm looking for in a quarterback, someone that passes and runs. And the more points I can get in different ways, that's why we call them staple backs. You get to staple some extra stats on top of his normal position. But he's 5th in QB over the last 4 weeks. So I don't know what you're looking for, like I said, but this is a guy I want on my team. 5th overall in the last amongst QBs in the last 4 weeks. Now, obviously, there's been some bye weeks involved and everything, but even if he's 8th overall in the last 5 weeks as a rookie, or over the last 4 weeks as a rookie, he's a guy you should be either picking up off waivers if you're in a shallow league or trading for in some of these other leagues. You might be able to trade some big name guy that isn't doing as well and go get Jackson Dart plus something and be happy as hell the rest of this season. Wide receivers, a couple wide receivers I want to trade for. Justin Jefferson. This isn't all mind-blowing, Justin Jefferson. But Jefferson hasn't been the player people drafted him to be to this point. He hasn't topped 20 points in a game yet for fantasy purposes in my home league. 6 of his last 9 games are against teams that are in the bottom 10 versus wide receivers. So that's what you're looking for. McCarthy is back there now. Looked like he can get Jefferson the ball, no problem. And they've already had their bye. He's currently 15th overall amongst wide receivers. Maybe you can get one of these guys that's popping off. I mean, I would trade Igbuka for Justin Jefferson straight up if someone would do that. Now, they're kind of down on him right now, maybe because of the injury and the bye week, a couple down games. Mike Evans kind of draw attention away. But Igbuka's still a player I would trade for. But if I had Igbuka and that's what they wanted for Jefferson, I would be willing to do that. Just an idea of someone you can be looking at. Khalil Shakir. This is our second wide receiver that I'm thinking about trading for, mainly because the Bills didn't trade for anybody. Like everybody expected Bills go get a wide receiver. They did not, which means Khalil Shakir is still the de facto number one there. Obviously, he's fighting with Kincaid, who's having a great season, but he is 33rd overall amongst wide receivers right now. So he's just outside the top 30. He still has Josh Allen. Like I said, no trade for a wide receiver. Keon Coleman has been a non-factor. He gets to play Miami, Cincinnati, and the Jets down the stretch of the season. And they get a lighter schedule just overall versus wide receivers down the second half of the season. They've been playing some tougher teams. But Khalil Shakir was the number one wide receiver for the Bills last year. I expect that to continue the rest of this season. And if you're looking for a third wide receiver, a flex guy, Khalil Shakir is the type of guy you go get that it's not going to cost you a lot because most people aren't looking at him like, oh, I got to have this guy. It's more about, oh, I got an extra tight end I can trade for Khalil Shakir. And you go get Shakir, get rid of that extra tight end, and improve your team. And that's what you're looking to do when you're making a trade. So they've already had their bye week. Like I said, just a guy that with them not making a trade there in Buffalo for a wide receiver, Shakir's value goes up a little bit. Travis Kelce is a tight end I'm looking to trade for. I told you this guy's – I expected him to have a good season this season, mainly because of the fact that he's still Mahomes' best friend. I don't care what anybody – that matters in football, the personal relationships. But with Rashee Rice back now, Xavier Worthy back now, the attention that is to be taken away from Kelce because of those players is what matters for Kelce. He's not beating double teams anymore like he did in his younger days when he was the number one tight end for 6 years straight or whatever it was. But he can still beat a one-on-one matchup because of his intelligence, understanding how to read a defense. He continues to produce. His last two games have been great. Some people are like, oh, I want to sell high now because he's an older tight end. But in a redraft league, you should go get Kelce. If you can trade one of these other tight ends or a extra wide receiver for him that you have, go get Kelce because you just lost Tucker Kraft. This is the guy that you can go get on a good offense that's just getting better through the course of the season. Thank God they didn't get Breece Hall for the rest of the league, but for fantasy it would have been awesome and would have took away from Kelce a little bit. But being that they did not, Kelce's still a trade for target. And Kelce is currently 5th amongst tight ends. So I don't know what you're looking at, but that's what I'm looking for in my starting tight end is to be in the top 5 if possible. Next guy on the list, our other tight end on the trade for list is Tyler Warren, Colts tight end. He's coming off 2 single-digit games, lowest yardage total of the season of his career in the NFL, but he's a rookie, so that's not a lot of games. But still the lowest yardage total of the season this past week. The Colts lost, which always puts a downer on how people feel about players when their team is losing. But he's currently the number 4 overall tight end. He's got 4 total touchdowns in 9 games now. Yeah, they haven't had their bye week yet. He does still have his bye. I think it's a week 11 or 12. I forget which one it is. But Tyler Warren is a stud fucking tight end. And right now everybody's talking about Colston Loveland because of his big game. But Tyler Warren has been the good tight end all season. He's had, like I said, he had a couple single-digit games the past couple weeks. But other than that, he has been solid all damn season. The Colts didn't get another receiver. They're going to try to get back to what was the winning game plan. That's why I talked about that with the Colts losing is they need to get back to Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman. Using those levels with Taylor coming out the backfield or as a runner, Tyler Warren in the middle of the field, Pittman getting deeper. If Steichen's smart, he's going to get back to doing that, using the play action. They got behind a couple early turnovers last week, forced them into the position you don't want Daniel Jones in, which is trying to come back against a decent defense. I'm not saying the Pittsburgh Steelers are a good defense. I don't think they're going to have another showing like that the rest of the season. But at the end of the day, Daniel Jones, when running a system and everything's going good, you're going to be fine. Daniel Jones, when he starts turning the ball over and gets down big, quick, it's a different ball game that you have to play. And Daniel Jones might not be equipped for that. But if they can stay ahead of the sticks, their schedule gets tougher down the stretch. That should require Tyler Warren to be even more involved just so Jones can get rid of the ball faster. So Tyler Warren's a trade for target. He was a draft guy for me. He's on my team in my home league, but he's a guy that I think you should be trading for in any league possible if you can. A couple running backs to trade for. Quinshad Judkins, Cleveland Browns running back. He had an AC joint sprain before the bye. They were on a bye last week. He's already practicing, not on the injury report today. He practiced Monday, not on the injury report today. He practiced in full today. He is currently 21st amongst running backs in fantasy. Two of his last three games are single-digit games, so people are probably a little bit down on him. He's banged up, coming off a bye, gonna be a little bit cheaper than he was after those first couple games he started and showed out. And they only have one game left versus top 10 defenses versus the run there in Cleveland. If you're looking for a running back to trade for, Quinshon Judkins is definitely one of those guys I'm looking for. The last guy, I don't think this is a big surprise, Saquon Barkley. It's more about what does Barkley cost? What would you be willing to trade up for him? Barkley is still a damn good running back. As long as he's healthy, I want him on my team if possible. Right now, I think you could probably trade Rico Dowdle or Javonte Williams for Saquon Barkley and come out on the better end of that down the second half of the season. Barkley is still hooked to one of the best offenses as far as getting in the red zone, getting touchdowns. The Eagles are going to need Barkley down the stretch. The colder the weather gets, they're going to want to run more. That's how they were winning in the first half of the season before they had to force the passes because of some complaining wide receivers and whatnot. And I believe they're going to try to get back to that. Barkley, like I said, hasn't been the player he was last year. Obviously, he ran for 2,000 yards last year. He's only averaging, I think, like 63 yards a game right now, 64 yards a game, something like that. But he's a guy that I'm always willing to have on my team. I don't think it's over by any means. And if you can go get Saquon Barkley for the second half of this season, I would. A couple extra guys like I would talk about maybe trading for. I told you, Joe Flacco, man, he's been the first number one QB over the last 4 weeks. With Chase and Higgins there, Chase Brown coming out the backfield, they have weapons, and they're going to have to score because that defense couldn't stop anything. Emeka Egbuka, I talked about him trading him for Jefferson. I would still be willing to go trade Emeka Egbuka. He's coming off a bye. He got banged up before that, had a couple of lower scoring games. And if somebody's willing to jump off him, scared that the rookie run is over, he's hit the rookie wall, I would definitely be willing to do like a Courtland Sutton plus, maybe a backup tight end or something, and go get Emeka Egbuka. Baker Mayfield, he's had a couple down weeks as well. This all is just as a team. They've had a few down weeks, but they should have Luke Getsy back on the offensive line. Bucky's not going to be back. Godwin's not going to be back in week 10. That was announced. Or no, I don't know if it was announced officially, but I do know they're not practicing and not expected back. But Rachaad White's still there doing his damn thing, and he's a good pass-catching back. Baker was playing with a cape, man, for the first 6-7 weeks of the season. And I believe he's going to have to put that cape back on and be a solid quarterback down the second half of the season. And with his staple back capabilities, with his rushing capability, it's only going to make him more valuable in fantasy. DeAndre Swift, he missed a game. Menange had a big game. People might be scared off by him, so you might get him a little bit cheaper than you would have a couple weeks ago. And he still has a staple back average as a starter. He missed one game. I don't believe he's going to miss this week. He already came back to practice on a limited basis. And if that's the case, DeAndre Swift is a player that you could probably get a little bit cheaper than you would have a few weeks ago and help your fantasy team down the stretch. Dallas Goedert, Eagles tight end. He still Hurts' favorite target, coming off a bye. So maybe worried about, are they going to start forcing the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? I don't believe that's the case. I believe they're going to get back to doing what was working, which was Goedert and Barkley. And then Kamani Vidal. Coming off a down week, people may be worried about, is Hampton coming back? Now, it came out that Hampton's not even going to have his practice window open until after the Week 12 bye. So that's Week 10, Week 11. They got a Week 12 bye. Vidal still started in Week 13 probably because if Hampton's not ready by now, I'm worried he might not be back until Week 16, Week 17. If that's the case, Vidal becomes a player you could trade for to use and maybe get a little bit cheaper with the fear that Hampton's coming back. You trade a fourth wide receiver for this guy, and you get a starter for the next 2 weeks that is going to be scoring points. I think that last week was just a situation where the Titans got a defensive turnover and a special teams turnover, and it turned into a different game than what the Chargers have been playing. Now, they lose Joe Alt. Obviously, that's concerning. Another reason you could be getting him a little bit cheaper, and I would bring that up if I'm trying to trade for him. And let's get into this Thursday night preview between the 7-2 Broncos and the 2-6 Raiders. Geno Smith, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers came back last week, caught 3 touchdowns from Geno Smith. That's all he threw was 3 touchdowns, but he's clearly the key that unlocks Geno's ability to pass the ball forward in an accurate fashion. Brock Bowers balled out last week. Jags end up winning at the end over the Raiders. Raiders fall to 2-6. traded Jacoby Myers away this week. Now they're coming to play a Broncos team that's missing Pat Surtain, as well as possibly Zach Allen, their defensive tackle, who got banged up last week. Waiting to find some more info out on that, but definitely could help the situation for Ashton Jeanty if he's out. My starts for this game, though, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins. I'm still expecting him to be the starting running back, and Will Lutz, the kicker there for Denver. On Raiders side, Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers, only ones that you have to start in my mind. Flexes for this game, the Denver defense, with them missing possibly two of their best players, I'm expecting a little bit less performance. With the Raiders, with Brock Bowers back, their offense should be able to do a little bit more. So maybe not as big a day for the Broncos defense unless they can get the Geno and get some sacks and stuff. So other than Denver defense, R.J. Harvey, still willing to flex him. He's got 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Obviously, the blow-up game a couple weeks ago, but still scored last week on a receiving touchdown. Against this Raiders team, he'll probably be able to do a little bit more for that Broncos offense, continue to get worked in. But like I said, I still expect Dobbins to be the starter, so Harvey's more of a flex player for me. And then Troy Franklin had 10 targets last week. He's actually had more targets than Cortland Sutton over the last, I think it was 3 weeks. So a player that you can get in a flex spot and trust that he's going to get the opportunities. They didn't make a trade for anybody. They're doing line changes still, but Marvin Mims has already been ruled out for this week with the concussion he suffered 2 weeks ago, not this past week, but the week before. And looks like Troy Franklin should be able to score you some points this week, especially against the Raiders defense and giving up some plays to wide receivers. And then on flex players for the Raiders, Trey Tucker. Maybe Daniel Carlson if you need a kicker, but there's some better kickers out there, I imagine, than Daniel Carlson, and not expecting a ton of opportunities for him anyways. But Trey Tucker becomes the de facto number 1 there, and a player that you could probably throw in your flex and feel confident that he's going to get enough opportunities with the attention that's paid to Brock Bowers. Sits for this game, Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, Las Vegas Raiders defense, not willing to start any of them. Geno's a desperation number 2 guy, but not a chance I'd be starting him in a 1 QB league. Marvin Mims, obviously, he's out. Pat Bryant, the rookie, had a good game a couple weeks ago, caught a touchdown, but just not enough involved yet. Sutton's still there. They're using Harvey more as a receiver, so they're not necessarily needing that third receiver as an option right now. They're using a scatter of tight ends. So it's really Sutton and Troy Franklin are receiving options you want to feel comfortable starting. Sutton, I would fully start. Franklin's more of a flex player, even though he's had more targets. I just feel like Sutton is the one you can trust. Franklin's more of a hit or miss type of guy, but he's getting the opportunities right now, so you got to throw him in your flex. But Pat Bryant, not willing to trust him yet there. And then all the tight ends for the Broncos, I'm not starting any of them. Evan Ingram, Troutman, a 400-year-old Mercedes Lewis. I don't want any of them in my lineup this week. I'm sure one of them might do something, just don't think I want to take the chance on guessing which one. And then my sneaky start for this game, Michael Mayer. With the move of Jacoby Myers, Bowers drawing attention. First couple of weeks, Mayer and Bowers were both involved. I think you could see some more of that with Myers now traded. Geno needing to get rid of the ball against a good pass rush, good defense in general. And with the wide receivers, with Riley Moss and Jahdae Barron still out there at corner, including their safeties helping over the top, you might need Michael Mayer to be that extra option to throw to for Geno Smith to get rid of the ball quickly. And he's a guy that maybe you need a tight end, maybe you lost Tucker Kraft. You're like, who am I going to start this week while I figure it out? Michael Mayer might be the guy you want to get in there. So hope you guys enjoy the show, enjoy the trade candidates. Maybe you can go make a move, get your team, make a run down the stretch, win a championship. That's what we're trying to help you guys do. Other than that, I hope you're having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you watch it. Until next time, I'm out. First down, Punts!